So one of you asked me about coming up with the linear equations for this piecewise defined function, and specifically they asked about the last one. So what I'm seeing with this linear equation here, I'm seeing it has a slope of five halves. So I thought it kind of went through that point, and it goes through that point too, where it would if it didn't include if it wasn't closed at x equals 1. So, but I'm going to pretend it's there momentarily just to come up with this equation. Now, what's different, I guess I should say, what's different for this one over here, that has a slope of -2. So I could just come down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. That's nice and easy. But for this one, if I came down 5 over 2, I don't know if it would go through a point or not. It might. I know it goes through a point, but is it an integer number, a nice, neat number? So one way to do this is know, hey, so I know this point is 1, -4, and I know this line has a slope of 5 halves. So there's a couple of ways to do it. I know our Algebra 2 teacher teaches students to find equations of line this way, where you have m as your slope and b as your y-intercept. And since I know the slope is 5 halves, or I think the slope is 5 halves at least, I can replace that much of it, and I have an x and a y. I have an x and a y, and I can just drop those into that equation. So I have -4 equals 5 over 2 times 1 plus b, and then what I've got to do is just solve this for b. So I'm going to rewrite this as -8 over 2, and then I'm going to subtract 5 halves on both sides, because 5 halves times 1 is 5 halves. And that should be what b is, and what is that? -13 over 2. And we probably should check and make sure that seems reasonable. Let's see, -13 over 2 is what? -6 over -6 over 2, or -6.5. Right, 2 goes into 13, 6 times 1 half left over. So it should cross that x-axis or y-axis at 6 halves. About there, I could be convinced that that's about right. So I guess what I would write for an equation, I would write 5 halves x minus 13 over 2 and come up with that answer that way. So I hope that helps some of you, just in case you're having a hard time. Remember, this is a constant function, so that would just be y equals -3. Okay?